thank you for being here and for your invitation and to speak about behavior. And it's not so easy to go on with this topic after these lectures, after this presentation, after these scary numbers, after these sad pictures or videos. But at the end, last but not least, I would like to speak about the behavioral problems of these puppies. And I'm a practicing veterinarian, specialized for behavior problems. And I have worked as a vet behaviorist for over 20 years. So I have a lot of experience, and in the past 8 or 10 years, I have more and more cases when we discuss with the owners in a consultation that the dog have a problem, for example, an anxiety or a fear problem. And at the background, in the history of the dog, we found that the puppies came from a puppy mill, a puppy center or a trading center or breeding center, and usually the owners don't know it. So sometimes it's one of the biggest problem that they try to find solution for the problems of fear or anxiety, but they know nearly nothing about their dog's puppyhood. So first of all, if we want to speak about the behavior, and I'm happy that the presentations give a lot of information. So first of all, I would like to, of course, shortly show you some information about the normal behavior of a puppy or a dog, or the normal canine development, because in my practice I saw and I see it usually that the owners don't have enough information which behavior is normal or abnormal in different part of the development. And of course, we talked about the genetic background. It's important, and we will discuss the environmental circumstances and the learning and experiences of these puppies, and these things influencing the learning and development of the adult dogs. We can talk about the sensitive periods, and Dr. Lila Balatoni told a lot of information about or in connection with the health problems, but these stages are really important, and we will see, for example, in the prenatal period, as she mentioned, the nutritional and health status of the dog, of the mother dog, is extremely important. And we know, and she mentioned it too, that elevated maternal stress level will impact on the development of the HPA axis, so the stress system, and may affect the normal coping abilities in the offsprings. So, as she mentioned, with these high cortisol levels, it will have a long-term effect on behavior, not just the health of the dogs, but the behavioral health as well. The stress can have a permanent adverse effect on behavior. We can see problems with learning with these puppies and their social behavior, sometimes their communication with the other dogs, or they cannot play well. And we see in Hungary nowadays more and more cases with reactivity, and they cannot usually control their emotions. So providing the mother with a friendly environment that affords positive social contacts, it's important, and it facilitates desirable emotional development of the offsprings. And if we go on and the puppy is born, it's important to let them spend their time nursing and sleeping. And we know that they have limited motor ability. The defecation and urination reflexes that are stimulated by their mothers. So it's again important that they need a good mother with good behavior and with good nursing behavior. And because the temperature regulation is pure advert, the mother collects them and warms them, but they need the normal circumstances for that. And in this video, and I hope it will you can see that the puppies are calm, the mother is relaxed, the bedding is soft and warm, the temperature, we see the infrared, is perfect for them. So this is a good beginning for a puppy. And we talk about the stress or speak about the stress a lot, and we know that my stress source, for example, when we use the early handling techniques, helps the puppy to cope better with stress in later life. But in this period, the permanent stress or the bigger stressors have a negative effect on behavior, and not just on behavior, but of the development of the puppy. And there is the next important period, the transitional period. We can see increasing independence in the puppies, and it begins with the opening of the ears and eyes, and they begin to walk. So again, we need good bedding and good circumstances. For example, good surfaces when they can go and check their environment, explore their environment, because they start it at that age. They begin to eliminate without stimulation, but again, a good mother behavior part that the mother still clean their excreta. So the puppies need good circumstances, good environmental circumstances, and I mean the physical and the social as well. So in that age, the puppy begins to interact with other individuals. Usually these are their little mates, but sometimes they can meet with other dogs as well. If we use the early handling techniques or just simply give environmental enrichment, we can let them walk on different surfaces. Difference, I mean the texture of these surfaces, the temperature. We can show them objects with varying shapes, providing a variety of noises, and of course in a safe and silent mood, so low decibels, but they can hear environmental noises, the rain, the birds singing, and the human voice as well, and it's important in their development. And the most important part, the socialization period, and it begins at the end of the 3rd week and ends at the 12 or 14 weeks of age. Their sensory systems are functional, their learning capacity increases. So in that age, the enrichment is critically important. And in these puppy meals, we don't have enrichment usually. So at the first part of this socialization period, they tend to sleep together. So they are moving in group, eating in groups, playing in groups, and sleeping in groups. But after the 6th week, they start to sleep alone and move alone and explore sometimes alone. And they need enough space to do this. So they and Balatonyi Lila show pictures about these puppy meals, and it's important that they begin to avoid soiling their den, so they can go further. And it's again important to have enough space to move, and to move freely. And their exploration becomes explorative behavior becomes increasingly important. They approach the novel objects or begin exploring away from the nest area. And again, an important fact that the exploration is balanced by fear, which protecting them from danger, and they have to learn from their from their experiences, sometimes from their mistakes, and if they can go out because they kept in cages, they don't have the possibility to learn from these things. So by the 12 weeks of age, the social ability begins to decrease, and under-socialized puppy become increasingly fearful of novel situation and, of course, of people. And as we see, the weeks, we speak about days and weeks in that age. The first part begin in the breeder or with the breeder. So we need a good breeder who can show different surfaces, different noises, different type of people, sometimes older people or children, or the voice of them. And the second part will be in the puppy's new home with his or her new owner. So the new owner has to go follow these socialization and give as many stimuli as they can. The habituation, it's okay, we speak about socialization and habituation. Habituation is to stimuli of the environment, and it's the physical environment, so the noises, the objects, and the socialization is for living creature, the social environment. And it's really important that it closes about 14th weeks of age. And as I mentioned, the rapid development of social behavior, we can see the increase in interaction. The first part in this socialization period, it with the litter mates, so it's okay. In optimal circumstances, in these puppy mills, they have litter mates, but sometimes it's not true. But they need a good mother with good behavior and a good and perfect environment. And if the puppies can play, we can see their social play, and the mother is the part of this learning. So here you can see Jack Russell puppies with their mother exploring the garden. And you can see the condition of the mother dog. The behavior is really good. The puppies can choose to follow her or to see the butterflies or to be in contact with another dog, because here you can see a golden retriever, and it's up to them to choose that social play. They can learn from observation or by observation of other dogs, and it's again important that the learning is better if they can observe an older dog with good behavior. And they can attach to each other or to different other species or to places. And it's the time for development of social relationship and also period of social vulnerability. So they are sensitive to psychological stress. It's again a problem in puppy mills. And in this period, they have a strong drive to form a bond or affiliations with people, and they spend a lot of time practicing and developing their social skills. It's the time also for learn to control their behavior, their emotions, their arousal. So, for example, the inhibited bite, the bite control begins in that period. And here you can see a video how a mother with good behavior start to teach a puppy how to get excited and then how to slow down. The puzzle level is easy, and we can see even please express keep puppy down until the parent and then up the play can go on. So we need good mothers as well if we want good puppies. And what we want. So at the beginnings, when Dr. Yaka started this conference, he told that the working dogs just the little part of the dogs society, and our researches shows the same. So we found in Hungary that nearly 90% or more of the families of the owner thinks that their dogs are family members. So they have big expectations how to behave at home or when they meet with somebody or when they go for a walk on leash, of course, or travel. So they have really high expectations. And of course, everybody wants a well socialized dog who can be left alone, so can be separated from the owner without destroying the flat or the furniture or barking all the day. And we want usually playful and trainable dogs. And of course, we will have rules for the puppies. And again, we will talk about the behavior problems, the house training. It's really important. And we want from the dog that they need to enjoy the company of the family members. We need friendly dogs, friendly with nearly everybody, every people and every dogs. I don't know how it works in other countries, but in Hungary, mainly in big cities, all of my owners want that the dog can be petted by strangers, and it's their expectation. We want that the dog don't afraid of traffic, can walk on leash or come when we call them, and we can travel with them. And as a vet, I can say we would like to treat friendly or at least cooperative dogs at vet clinics. And as you see, with the arousal and the control of it, we want dogs who can be relaxed and sleep while we are working or we have a meeting and or a conference. But when we want to play with them, we need their company and the activity. So I think that in behavior, everything matters and the difference matters. And in puppy mills, the things go wrong because the bad or poor physical, social, mental, and health circumstances had a really bad effect on their, not just their health, but their behavioral health as well. The differences came from the puppy mill's goal. They want to produce as many puppies as possible and as quickly as they can. So there are usually little or no veterinary care, as the other mentioned, no DNA testing, no conscious selection of the dogs. And many times you see the indiscriminate breeding, so very young females bred every cycle with a really bad or poor condition. And as Balatoni doctor told, that this poor condition lead to health problems, and I say lead to health and behavior problems as well. They are usually in continuous confinement, spend their entire lives indoor or sometimes outdoor, but they don't have the chance to decide whether I want to go out or stay indoor. And usually they are without human contact and without enrichment. And as we can see, it's really important at that age, in that age, for the puppies to meet with different stimuli around them to be a good behavior adult dog. They are usually in the lack of physical and mental exercises, lack of social life, other dogs and usually humans, and poor husbandry, as we heard. And my question, or sometimes in consultation we see that it's a real question, that do the owner knows that the puppies came from a puppy mill? Because, and you have heard about a lot of information about this, usually the owners, and especially I can see it in Hungary, that they choose their puppies from the internet, from different website ads, and sometimes the older generation from newspapers, and of course flea markets are forbidden, so it's forbidden to sell dogs in flea markets, but sometimes we see it. And usually they think that they buy a dog from a breeder because the breeder promised them to send all the papers after the puppy, and usually this breeder has a friend who is just on the way next to the city next to you, and will help you not to travel so much. So brought the pet, the puppy to you, and this owner thinks that it's a good thing. And usually if they decided to adopt, for example, a Dalmatian, they don't think that a Dalmatian dog is kept in these circumstances. They usually see a picture like this, a happy dog, happy and nice pictures, cute dogs, and an advertisement that would you like to give your family something really special for Christmas? What could be better than buy a Dalmatian puppy? And they don't think about the circumstances. So I also believe in education of the owners. And here is 2 slides about or from the literature, and you can see the examples of problems that might occur in the lack of relevant stimuli. For example, it can lead to altered sensitivity to touch if there is no tactile or thermal stimuli in the first 14 days. Or if their lack of interaction with dogs, it leads to heightened reactivity to dogs. Or if they don't have the chance to play with an older dog or with a good behavior mother dog, they lose the chance to learn how to control their arousal levels, and it can also lead problems in later life to be calm. So there are a lot of consequences when they in the lack of relevant stimuli. And we usually don't speak about the importance of learning, but if they don't have the chance, or when they don't have the chance in the first 16 weeks of their life to learn from experiences from mistakes to meet with novel environmental things, stimuli. It can lead to neophobia in different levels or inappropriate play. And it's again important because it's a long-term effect, the lack of plasticity in their later responses, for example, to stressful situations. And here is another example from the literature when we see the lack of exercise for dogs, and we can see that there are consequences in their physical health, their psychological health, and we will discuss later on the behavior consequences, just like inappropriate use of aggressive behavior or increase in fear behavior or fearful behavior or anxieties. We can see also repetitive type of behavior, stereotypes, and OCD behaviors. So which are the most common behavior problems in dogs came from puppy mills? We can put them groups. And of course, in the first group, we can see the fears, the phobias, and anxiety problems. They usually have problems with people, with new people, strangers especially. Sometimes they have problems with conspecifics. They are fearful. Sometimes, as I mentioned, we can see neophobia in different levels. A lot of phobias, mainly the thunder phobia or phobic behavior for sharp sounds or noises or the traffic. It's another important in Hungary when somebody buy a dog in a little village and move to a big city, and they cannot live in a good welfare in these big cities because they cannot adopt or learn to believe or to behave in these circumstances well. We can see anxiety problems and extreme sensitivity to stressful situation or to stress. We have seen a lot of control problems, as I mentioned, the lack of bite inhibition or problems, control problems as well. If we go for a walk and on leash, it's also a problem for these type of dogs. They have problems with reactive behavior or sometimes overactive behavior, and aggression problems. The most of the aggression problems came from or comes from the fear. So this is fear aggression, but we see resource guarding in these dogs and problems when they are playing together, or Lila told a lot of information about their health problems, and we saw a lot of sad pictures about German Shepherds. So if you just think it over, that with these joints, with these legs, it means pain, and pain can lead to anxiety, to fear, and to aggression as well. The other common behavior problems, the elimination problems, usually the house training problems. We can see eating problems, the fast eating or the pica, when they eat anything they can which is not eatable, so paper or plastic or any other things, and destructive behavior. And we see sometimes OCD behaviors, circling, tail chasing, fly catching syndrome, for example, in Cavalier King Charles, or light and shadow chasing, mainly in border collies. And these are from the literature, but I put a slide into this presentation from my Hungarian cases and experiences. And I can see that most often the owners don't know that the puppies from a puppy mill. Dogs often have genetic and developmental problems as well, not just behavioral problems. And another bad situation that the owners start seeking help too late. So we lose months of therapy. And the most common behavior problems in my practice and in our country are the anxiety problems, mainly the separation anxiety, sometimes social anxieties, fear problems, mostly of novel things, the noise sensitivities. It's typical in these dogs. They have usually bonding problems to their owners. They are usually overbonding, and it's true mostly in puppies adopted before 6 weeks of age. And, it's impossible because of the rules, but we can see it. We see a lot of reactive behavior in these puppies and elimination problems. I usually see these problems seriously in puppies who kept in cages, so they didn't have the chance to eliminate out from the nest. And in the past 2 or 3 years, we see more and more OCD problems, so obsessive compulsive disorders. Less common cases, the learned helplessness in these puppies, the general anxiety disorder, the canine PTSD when they have an other trauma, not just their pack from the puppy mill, but the other traumas, for example, when they traveling across Europe and in a truck, and it's also a trauma for them. And in Hungary, the aggression problems are not really typical in this group of dogs, but we saw a lot of behavioral problems due to genetic and developmental disorders. And for the last, how can we help? Because I believe in behavior therapy, and I think that we can help to these dogs. And join to Dr. Balatonyi, I believe not just in education, but I believe in rehabilitation and just for a word, not just for the puppies, but their mothers and the other older dogs, because they need rehabilitation. Sometimes if the puppy is really young, we can socialize them and help them immediately if we have the information from the beginning. But in my practice, I have mother dogs from these puppy mills, and they need a complete rehabilitation plan, how to teach them to walk on different surfaces, to trust in people, and a lot of things. And sometimes you can use therapy dogs to teach them how to communicate with other dogs, and we have to educate our owners. We have to find the perfect solution for the rescued puppies, and of course the adult dogs as well. And as a vet, I want to highlight that in serious and difficult or complicated cases, we can use not just natural remedies, but we can use medication to help these animals, because if the stress level is really high, if they have big fears or phobias, they cannot learn. In a fearful situation, if they panic, they cannot learn. So sometimes we need medication as well. And as well, we have to check their health problems, because the gastrointestinal problems usually lead to problems with reactivity and a lot of other behavior problems. And last but not least, we need to give time to these puppies and their mothers and the other dogs, and we need to be patient. Thank you for your attention.